I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Joseph Nixon.
And this is Rotten 90s Movies. And this week's movie is...
Truly, Madly, Deeply.
Yes, written and directed by Anthony Minghella in 1990.
Yeah, released in 1990.
Yeah, how did this do, this film?
It was a BBC film for Screen 2. I think if anybody out there remembers Screen 2.
No, this was in the days when quite a cheers, I thought. BBC would use license fee payers' money.
Our money
to make a film.
Bloody money.
Our money to make a film that they then released at the cinema and made us actually have to pay to see before they released it on the television.
Well, I don't really understand it. It's like when they when they release something on DVD that we've paid for, and then we have to buy it. Surely
that sort of makes more sense, I guess. I just thought, they would release them at the cinema in advance of the actual television. Because Willie Russell Dancing in the Dark, they did that as well.
I believe so. Yes,
Dancing Through the Dark. Is that it? I can't
remember. Singing in the Dark is Bruce. You're getting Willie Russell and Bruce Springsteen mixed up.
Well, I wouldn't be the first person to do that. You wouldn't believe the disappointment at Wembley Arena. No.
So here he is, the boss, and out comes Russell,
little scamser.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, you're right. This was a Screen 2 film. And it was released at the cinema. It was a big hit in America on the Alt House circuit.
It made 1.5 million gross.
Oh, what was the budget, Murray? This is Murray Simon, our producer.
Hello. It doesn't mention a budget.
It wouldn't do because the BBC just gave.
No, it wasn't a big. It
it was an art house
huge
hit,
commercial hit. It was. It was a big critical hit.
That's right.
And
it came
sort of cultural touchstone, I guess.
Yeah, it came sort of in the wake of Ghost.
Yeah, what year was Ghost? This was
same year actually.
I think it was the same year. They said it was billed as Ghost for adults.
Yes, I know. Ghosts for middle class people is what it really was.
Sort of more sophisticated in a way, I think.
Well, we'll come to that later, but I think
it's a bit like. Have you seen Peggy Sue Got Married? The
yes,
that was billed as Back to the Future for grown-ups. It's much more acinine film than Back to the Future.
It's not very good, is it?
It's got Nicolas Cage in it.
It's
not being very good, and it doesn't work.
Kathleen Turner.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So the cast of this film is Juliet Stevenson.
That's right.
Who plays Nina.
Nina Mitchell.
That's right. Yeah.
Vested interest in her character because I necessarily think that she's somehow related to me.
She could be, couldn't she?
Yeah. And there's Alan Rickman as
Jamie,
yes, her cellist. Her former lover who's departed, left her sort of kind of widowed her. They weren't married, though. We presume they were sort of living together.
In a very 90s way.
Yeah.
They were not.
And there's Michael Maloney.
What's his character called?
Oh, I don't remember.
Or something?
I don't remember.
Jonathan.
And Bill Patterson playing a minor role, and can't remember the name of the character actor, wonderful character actor.
David Ryle.
Yeah, David Ryle.
As George, the rat catcher.
Who's there as a sort of kind of a slight suggestion that he's some kind of seer.
He talks about conversing with his dead wife, doesn't he?
And there's a small part played by Anton Lesser.
Oh, who was he?
I thought it was Anton Lesser. He's one of the ghosts, isn't he?
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's not a big cast.
No, it's not. It's a little intimate film. And it's. We should discuss the plot.
We should. Okay, so first things first. Now, is the ghost real? Because I'd always assumed the ghost was real. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she said, "Oh, I always thought the ghost was only in Juliet Stevenson's mind, and it was her way of processing her grief." And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
No,
because I mean, he touches, he sort of moves things around. Although I suppose she might have moved them around and gone. But then again, she'd be insane, wouldn't she?
She's
not supposed to be mentally ill in this film.
No. I think
a psychiatrist.
I think the film is unequivocally suggesting that the ghost is real.
Yeah.
In the same way that Patrick Swayze's ghost is real.
Yeah.
Actually has an ability to physically touch and embrace and
he kisses her. I presume they make love in this film.
Yeah. If the ghost isn't real, then none of the stuff about him being cold all the time makes any sense whatsoever.
I suppose you could say that that's how she imagines a ghost would be or something. No, I agree with you. I think you're right. I was just that sort of made me unsure. I thought,
No, I was thinking that as I was watching that. I thought, no, this isn't hedging its bets like A Matter of Life and Death does.
Yes, no,
where it kind of manages to have its cake and eat it. It doesn't do that. It's just having its cake.
I mean, everybody else. I suppose nobody else sees him, do they? But that doesn't really mean anything.
That means, but then the farcical scenes in which he's trying to conceal him from exposure that make no sense of any kind whatsoever. Do they?
No, they don't.
No. This ghost is real.
Right. Okay.
This ghost is as real as the ghost in The Ghosts of Motley Hall.
Ghost goes west.
Yeah, Ghost Goes West, or Mr. Davenport, is it?
Yeah.
Rent-A-Ghost, or Timothy Claypole. This ghost is definitely real. As real as Fred Mumford.
I would have thought this film would have been much better if it had been Timothy Claypole instead of Jamie. Really, there's not very much happens in this film, is there? Okay, so when we come into this film, Juliet Stevenson's character is already deep in grief.
Yes.
For her departed boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who I guess has died sort of 6 months or so before. I guess something like that. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and she just can't let him go. She just can't let it go. Can't process it. Can't get over it.
She's seeing his drink.
So Murray's laughing his head off here. I know what's he saying.
Can't let it go. It's 6 months.
I know. Come on.
We're British now.
Well, she's very un-British about this. Is a very sort of blubbery, snotting performance from her.
Yeah, it's hardly the stuff of Celia Johnson, is it?
I think it's just disgraceful.
No, exactly. They actually show Brief Encounter at one point in the film, and then I just think a bit of restraint. For God's sakes, woman.
The psychiatrist looks uncomfortable when she starts crying.
This is England, you know.
End of the session.
No, she's a very unsympathetic shrink, isn't she? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, so she's very, very upset.
Really
can't
upset.
Process it. Can't even begin to get over it. There's a bit where her sister comes round and suggests sort of donating his cello. To her nephew who's learning the cello, and she's very, very
borrowing it, or her buying her to buy
it
from her, and she's enormously angry and upset.
She says it's like you want his body or something like that. She says.
Yeah.
And so she's sort of mad with grief, really, isn't she? Like someone in a Greek tragedy.
And the suggestion is that this moment over the cello, this row over the cello, sort of is such a sort of profound sense of pain and grief and sort of association she has with this cello, this kind of bodily emanation of her lost love, that it calls him back. And that he kind of she's one day just playing the piano,
so vast,
playing a Bach piece, and then suddenly, he is there accompanying her on the cello. Half an hour, into the film. Yes, I know. And we have had we've had lovely scenes of the workmen being all sort of jovial in a way that workmen never are. And washing the pots for her.
Has Anthony Minghella never had like a plasterer in or anything like that? Where's the gruff, miserable, moaning bastard sort of saying, "Oh no, can't do anything with this, mate." No,
we'll come to that in a moment.
But anyway, he pops up and she's overjoyed to see him. Obviously,
not without a lot of snotty crying. This is the snottiest film ever made. There's more snot. Julia Stevenson It's not unblessed in the nose department. She manages to use it to its fullest extent by producing an enormous amount of mucus in the making this film. I kept thinking, this is false. If they do they keep stopping?
They imported in fake snot.
Or kind of the makeup artists came and applied it to her because there's an enormous amount of snot.
There's a lot of grief acting in this, isn't there, from Juliet Stevenson? And I suppose it's real. Is it realistic? Is that? Well, I don't know.
I don't. You know, it's very knowing people who are bereaved, like Juliet Stevenson's character. I guess it is fairly realistic. I mean, obviously. I mean, her character does, to be fair, she does kind of go from seeming to be able to keep it together and to sort of have a bit of stiff upper lip, and then sort of moments of rage and fury, which I guess is sort of believable. I think she's very good at doing it.
No, she's. I mean, we should probably say that everyone in this film is very good. Really.
It's a very good cast
with good actors.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jamie reappears, and he's not a see-through ghost. He's a very human ghost. She can touch him, she can kiss him, and he sort of pops up in her flat. There's a suggestion that he can only exist in the flat, which is odd because it's not his flat, is it? Yeah. It's her flat.
Yes.
And he
or there's a suggestion that he kind of can't go out.
Yeah.
He has to sort of stay there because nobody can see that they know he's dead.
Yeah.
So he can't risk being seen. I thought that was the sort of the suggestion in the film. It's that that he kind of has to stay there. Really, he can't really go. And she kind of says at a point, she says, "I would just want the world to go away," because she obviously she knows that he can't go out and about. I mean, is it having its cake and eating it, as we've discussed earlier? Is it sort of like trying to say no, it's just an imagination? That's why. But if it was just in her imagination, why is there the scene where she imagines him as the cellist out on the South Bank?
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
And then it's not. You know what I mean? So anyway, that just gets complicated. I think if he's not a real ghost, then it's the kind of the sort of metaphysics of it just don't work.
No, I don't think they do. Anyway, so he turns up. She spends about a week sort of just mooching about with him.
Not knowing, she's kind of gone into a flat. Yeah,
and this makes she sort of misses a whole week of work. Her job is as an interpreter.
Yes.
And I think I said before that an interpreter can afford a flat in North London is what really dates this.
Yeah, well, no, actually, I mean, I was thinking hard about this because she has this flat that's, and this is one of the things that makes it very 90s. They keep saying this flat is terrible, but it's actually a dream flat, and it's a big flat in Highgate, and I was sort of trying to work out. I was thinking, I don't think an interpreter could have bought a flat in Highgate of this size with a big, nice garden
I don't
in 1990.
Oh, no, I suppose
she could have been independently wealthy, I suppose.
She's middle class, I suppose. She might have rich parents.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, I think it would have been beyond most people's reach, I think. Anyway. I mean, there is a suggestion that she's from a fairly wealthy family because they're so middle class.
She plays the piano. This is one of those films where everyone can play a musical instrument.
Yes, that's right.
Except Bill Batson, because he's Scottish. He can't do anything.
All he could do is drink and fight. Yeah.
So she's an interpreter, and then things get a bit complicated because she happens upon Michael Maloney.
That's right.
Who and sort of feels a connection with him.
Yeah, who kind of disperses a row between a Chilean woman that she works with, who's one of the people she helps.
The racist boss of a cafe.
Yeah, the racist boss of a cafe, which was not terribly convincingly well drawn, I would say.
Michael Maloney disperses by doing a magic trick.
Yes, with a live pigeon.
Yeah,
in a cafe and doesn't get thrown out for bringing vermin.
I'd have thrown him out anyway.
Into the place, I'd have thrown him out just for a line. A Russian novel. It always must be Russian. I'd have thrown him out for that. You know,
I'd have also beaten him up
for pretension. You know. But he disperses this row that's getting quite ugly in this cafe, and draws attention to himself, and he kind of obviously sort of makes some kind of connection with
she bumps into him again, which is a bit odd, I thought, in London, just because
London's populous. Even then,
lots of people. She bumps into him again on the bus, and they sort of agree to have a date. And he's a psychologist who works with people with learning difficulties.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and there's an interesting bit of sort of character shorthand in this film, in that we know that Juliet Stevenson's character is a good egg because she helps these dispossessed.
She speaks a foreign language.
She speaks lots of foreign language. She helps these people who've come across from Chile and who are also all uniformly good eggs. And all doctors and academics in their own land, but forced to work as sort of waitresses.
Yes, that's right.
Things here.
Yes, because terribly this country didn't find anything for them to do. Although presumably their own country didn't find anything for them to do either, which is why they left them. But that's not mentioned. Anyway, go on.
Actually, it's interesting because the racist cafe owner, why he's angry with the guy who's the waiter, is that he's accusing him of having stolen from the till. And he has been stealing from the till. I mean, it's because the guy's underpaying him, and he's just taking the money out.
But the guy who's underpaying makes the point that they're not paying any taxes. I mean, obviously, rather like Brighton at the time, there's loads of people here just working sort of black market essentially. Yeah. And the bloke is underpaying them, but at the same time they're getting presumably they're signing on at the same time.
It's a reasonably fair point that he's paying tax and they aren't, isn't it?
Yeah, no, he was. But this, the BBC was ever thus over things like this. You just got to go bad guy, racist cafe owner, good heroine. I mean that's it's as simple-minded as that. But that's how Scream 2 worked, as I remember. Go on.
Anyway, so that's how we know that she's a good egg. We know Michael Maloney's character is a good egg because he works with these very lovable people with learning difficulties.
But as you remarked, you worked with people with learning difficulties, but you're a very bad egg.
Yeah, I'm a very evil, nasty,
exploitative, in every possible way. But then again,
I don't go around hopping like a twat and reciting my life story.
Anyway, so Michael Maloney's very sort of fixed on her and
falls in love with her.
With very little sort of knowledge of her, really. He decides that he's gone head over heels for her.
Yeah.
And this complicates matters because obviously she's got the ghost of her previous lover sort of, shacked up with her. And who is, for some reason, inviting more and more of his friends from the afterlife. Who are all blokes to sort of come round and sort of
all seem to be nerdy sort of film buffs.
To sort of hang about with him.
Yeah, he didn't know anyone else in the afterlife. No. He didn't know anyone famous. It's not like he knows Napoleon or anyone like that.
His 40 virgins.
Oh God,
is that what they are? Film buffs.
Well, they are. They really are. And there's more and more of them, and he starts to sort of rearrange her flat and sort of like criticises her for how she's got her furniture.
That's right, and she sort of says, "Was it always like this?" And I guess the idea is that she begins to see that there were flaws
in their relationship
even when he was alive.
Yeah.
And that she's idealised him since he died.
Yes.
And eventually she sort of lets him go.
Yes.
And decides to go off with Michael Maloney.
Yeah. And he sort of wipes a tear away, watches Michael Maloney and Juliet Stevenson have their first kiss, and then he realizes he has to sort of leave. He has to leave. He and all of his mates witness this for some reason, and then they fade off into the afterlife and leave her to get on with her new life. Because we should mention as well that there's a kind of subplot with the Polish, I suppose,
subplot.
Sub kind of odd jobs man, I suppose, at the place of work who has a fancy for her and tries to whisk her away to Paris, and and she demurs, and then he actually sort of
is he meant to be the father of the baby?
Of the Chilean lady's baby?
I don't think so. I think he'd fallen in love with
her.
Yeah,
he then gets together with the mother of the baby. But when Juliet Stevenson witnesses this birth, it just makes her think that she wants to be in the world of the living. She wants to have a family. She doesn't want to be cooped up in her flat any longer with the ghost of her former lover, and she chooses life in the form of Michael Maloney.
And his terrible haircut.
And his awful haircut.
There's some bad male haircuts.
Yeah, there really is. The stylist, the men's stylist on this is bloody awful.
Rickman's got awful hair.
Yeah. Really terrible.
Maloney, they've got sort of the same haircut, haven't they? Really, sort of.
Yeah. Well, Rickman's just doesn't seem to have a haircut of any kind whatsoever. It's just, I mean,
that's what happens when you die. I don't know. So let me get this straight. Okay, so Alan Rickman deliberately enlists the help of a bunch of ne'er-do-well ghosts, deliberately to tarnish her memory of him.
Yeah.
So she can move on. Is that what happens?
There's a kind of.
I don't think that's very nice.
There's a sort of the suggestion at the end that Rickman has. Well, either they've agreed this plot that he realizes that he's got to go back and sort of let her move on because the pain is too great, and there's a council of ghosts or something have kind of said, look, you've got to go in and we'll help you. We've got to sort of try and move her on. Which is, I guess, I think what the ending signifies, which is the only reason why they would be with him, watching. I don't understand why the other ghosts are with him, watching this moment at the end.
Well, it must be that they've plotted it all together.
That's the only thing that can make any sense.
Goes off with someone else and remakes her life.
Yeah, and that's why they sort of, they pat him on the shoulder when he wipes away a tear and decides to go.
But isn't that sort of awful, really? That this great love of her life has been sort of tarnished, and now she'll just remember him as a bit of a prick now.
I also think that it just feels weird that those ghosts are there, even if that is the story that it's suggesting, because you just think, well, you could still suggest that if it was just him. It's surely the moment is his, but they don't have any relationship with her, these sort of people. No, I mean, this brings me to one of the weaknesses, I think, one of the many weaknesses in the movie, which is that the suggestion is the mechanism by which the ghost is summoned is her intense pain and over the cello. That this somehow is kind of crosses a sort of there's a kind of magic about objects, isn't there? This object, this cello, which she eventually lays to rest as she lays the ghost of her relationship with him. She puts it in the case as if she's burying his body. That this is what has summoned him. What summoned his mates? That just what business have they got in there? And unless, as you say, it is it's a council of them that have just sort of looked on this and gone, look, she's in real pain. We have to do this, and they have this plot. I mean, that's the only way that would make any sense.
Quite vague about the afterlife, this film, isn't it?
It's it's what they call it world building. The world building is sort of terrible. There's virtually no. I mean, there's obviously there is a certain amount of imagination in deliberately leaving things unsaid, but I think this just leaves far too much unsaid. I think it betrays a lack of imagination.
As with Flatliners, as we've already done, we don't find out anything about God. We don't find if God exists, do we? Or if
we don't really find
heaven exists or anything. Really.
We don't really find out any reason for why. The suggestion is that it's sort of a bit miserable and cold up there and nasty. Well, no, it's miserable up there, but not as cold as they feel it when they're back on Earth. But they can't, for example, watch their favourite videos.
There are no video shops.
They haven't got a video box.
No, they haven't got blockbusters.
Or Lawrence's, it used to be in Brighton, the card shop on the dials, which had all the art films at the back.
Did it make the Miss video shops?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Oh, then we'll come on to that, which is one of the 90s things about the film. But so, general thoughts.
I thought, well, because
see Mummy's face. He looks so depressed. You should see it.
This was a big thing. This lots of people, mainly I think probably women, have a big place in their hearts for this film.
Well, your missus did. Yeah, I remember she loved and blubbed. I remember
they thought, oh, I wish I could have a lovely dead boyfriend who's Alan Rickman, who played the cello, rather than my useless living boyfriend. But no, this sort of touched a lot of people. This film, I think.
Well, I think it was because it was very, very openly romantic.
Yeah,
you know, and there, I guess there hadn't been, you know, what were the options? Drowning by Numbers, you know, there hadn't really been any British film. Was Rita Sue and Bob 2 that had been really effusively, openly, gushingly romantic like this in a very long time. Also,
it's kind of aspirational, this film, isn't it? In that it's very upper middle class, North London,
Highgate.
Yeah, everybody's got a sort of posh job, really.
Yeah, and nice job.
Yeah,
they're meant to be sort of not posh, but they really are. They're the kind of jobs that, you know, the rich girls have been killing each other to get.
All the workmen are lovely.
Yeah,
all the foreign national people she works with are lovely.
Absolutely. Even you know, but the Polish character Titus, he's just boring. He's such a horrible cliche.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, beautiful one.
We love.
We make love.
In my country, to get rid of the rat, we dance because he starts fucking dancing over the place. I thought, no, you don't. In Poland, they don't dance to get rid of infestations, do they?
It's honestly, I just sort of think that's interesting. It kind of obviously happened in the pre-cat owner boom.
Yeah.
Because
no one's just getting a cat.
Yeah, no. Because one of the things is the idea that the flat she's in, which is just idyllic, is a terrible flat, which, you know, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, why are you living in this horrible flat?
The heating's broken.
And
the water doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful, this flat. You know, you'd put up with any of those. And she's got rats running openly around this flat, which might be nuts.
Does this
ever happen? Does anybody actually have rats run over?
You see them. Everywhere.
You know, everywhere. I mean, I don't know if. I thought they were a little less bold than that, but there you go.
Actually, to get back to Titus,
but she doesn't have a cat. Now, of course, what would have happened even 2 years later? She'd have, the moment that Jamie had died, she'd instantly gone out and got a cat. Yeah. In fact, she'd have had cats already. You know, there'd have been cats everywhere, so there'd be no rats in this bleeding flat.
But there's a weird bit in this film where Titus comes round her house at midnight and knocks on her door. She answers the door and he says, "I have tickets to Paris. You come with me. We make love." Yes. And rather than getting all Me Too on his ass and calling the police, she's sort of charmed by this.
Yeah. Oh, she says, I've got written down the line that she says. She says, "Titus, you're fab. You're so sweet."
I presume it's because he's a lovable Pole, a lovable, nice. If he was an English bloke, she'd have called the police. If
he was the plumber that you'd seen, she'd have got the rozzers on him immediately. You know, no, that was. And then actually, she says almost immediately after this scene, she says to Alan Rickman about him, "Don't worry, he's Polish."
Well, that's a bit insulting that he's safe because he's sort of this infantilised foreigner. Yeah, because you don't have to take his sexual invites seriously because he's Polish. He's fine.
The portrayal of foreigners in this, he's really, he's kind of, forgive me to use the word, but it's kind of retarded. It's very odd. They're ridiculously infantilised and idealised. I mean, the cafe worker who's the doctor starts taking her blood pressure on the table in the cafe where it works. Now, I'm sorry, but that would be a sacking offence. Can you imagine being able to do that?
Why is he going there?
Is he doing this all the time? He's got stirrups as well. He's sort of giving someone a smear test over the cheese and ham toasties or something. No, you're right. It's the idea of the people who are foreign in this film is very one note.
Really, very, really, it's incredibly one dimensional and very. It's Anthony Minghella really did have a chip on his shoulder over this. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this because he does the same thing with English Patient, and the English Patient does sort of has this. And I haven't read the book, so I don't know how much of it is on Dartry, but he basically the English Patient sort of like so reigns on this idea of nationalism and national characteristics being a ridiculous thing and to the degree that it sort of almost becomes pro-Nazi. I was talking to you about this. The suggestion is, love has sort of sent him over the brink, so that it's kind of. Yeah. But no, you sort of get this sense with Minghella. He's kind of saying, it's just so doesn't matter. It's just one ridiculous empire against another. And you think, no. No, it's not. But that's sort of what the English Patient kind of does end up saying, and Minghella has a real obsession with this. I think. I mean, he's constantly complaining. He was constantly. I mean, he goes on about Spanish all the time because he was a Spanish family in Isle of Wight, wasn't he?
I think so.
Now I don't know how much. He probably got picked on when he was a kid. I had no idea. I mean, I was we were at that primary school in Shirebrook. There were Italians and Spanish there. I don't remember anybody getting. Well, I mean, it might have done. I don't know. I can't say it was his life. I've no idea. But the point is that he was making films for BBC Two and was a very rated figure. So it can't have been that much of a. It can't have been that much of a burden to him. But he does complain about it bitterly, it seems to me, all the way through his film career.
No, he just seemed to have a bit of a bee in his bonnet.
Yeah, so I mean, there's the bit where she's there's this weird thing that he has. He self-inserts a lot in this. I think they call it self-insert. Yeah. There's a lot about Spanish. He's very pro-Spanish. He's very he's obviously got a love for it, but. It seems weird that he's berating Bill Patterson's character for not learning Spanish, but not berating Bill Patterson's son for not learning English.
Yes, no, there's a weird sort of subplot where Bill Patterson's ex-wife, who I presume must be Spanish or something like that.
We presume so. Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere where they speak Spanish and is off with his son. Living, I guess, in
Spain. We're not sure exactly when they split up and how old the son was, but the point is the son writes
to him in Spanish,
postcards in Spanish, which he can't translate. He has to ask Juliet Stevenson. She keeps saying, "Why aren't you learning Spanish?" Why is the son not learning English? I mean, touche.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, but. It's kind of indicative of a, but I find it very weird because there's the hopscotch bit where she talks about London being the country. She's very angry about the country being very unwelcoming and very sort of if you're the wrong colour, if you're the wrong sex, whatever. But then, and this is the irony, she's quite hypocritical because she's not welcoming to the ghosts and she complains about them all being men.
Yeah.
And I thought there's a sort of disjuncture between those two
presumably
things.
If they were all Spanish-speaking women, she'd be all right.
But all of this stuff is sort of all by the by. It's just sort of Minghella sort of pushing his hobby horses into the story, and it doesn't really add anything to it. So really. It's just there, just to make sure that that his heart is in the right place. It seems to me.
Also, and as I previously said, it's sort of shorthand for knowing who the good guys are in this and who are the bad guys. So the good guys are the ones who are very liberal although I don't know. I suppose Rickman's character is interesting, isn't he? Because there's reference to him going to political meetings and things, but he's quite a sort of grumpy, cynical. Sort of character, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, he's played by Alan Rickman, so
I guess he's a sort of campaigning sort of Labour Party member, I guess.
Much more sort of
slightly older school.
Yeah,
type.
I mean, he's not like Michael Maloney's character. You can't really imagine him hopping, can you?
No, but then Michael Maloney's character almost certainly would have voted Green in the 1989 local elections. I think, so it's very. I just feel it's very thin on detail. This film. I mean, the world we've talked about, the world building it's very slight, and it feels that he's obviously trying to walk that tight rope between not saying to allowing an audience to sort of fill in detail, being enigmatic. That's the way, and not saying too much. And I just think he falls on the. I think he goes so heavily for enigma that he just ends up saying nothing. There's sort of nothing like enough detail or wit. I mean, one of the things I wrote was that there's no good jokes in this. There are attempts at jokes. I mean, it's not totally.
It's not very quotable, is it?
It's not po-faced. I mean, it's not a lack of jokes through an intent to be humorous, but there's no good
sort of
gags.
Quirkiness rather than jokes, isn't there? They've got Juliette Lewis sticking pens up her nose, dancing with a couple of Peruvian dolls and things like that.
Yes, and it's all an attempt to make her sort of a bit scatty and ditzy, rather like the Meg Ryan character in Sleepless in Seattle.
But she's Julie Stevenson, and she's clearly not like that. She's clearly a very serious,
quite sensible
person,
sensible girl.
No, definitely. I mean, she sort of looks old hopping around after Michael Maloney, doesn't she? Really, because you sort of think, don't Julia Stevenson wouldn't hop.
There's the kind of bad attempt at humour where the George Builder character goes into her place thinks he's got some solution to her rat infestation. And there's a sort of vague attempt at sort of farce where she's trying to make sure that Jamie isn't there, and that so that George doesn't discover him. But then George kind of lets it out that perhaps he's a little bit mystical, and he sees his wife, and maybe kind of knows that she's got this connection, that there's this ghost there. There's quite a suggestion.
I wasn't sure whether that wasn't a little hint that maybe the ghost of Jamie wasn't real, because he said, "Oh, I talk to my wife every night," and I thought, well, that's what she's doing, isn't it? Really. But I wasn't.
Just none of the stuff with the friends makes any sense.
No, it doesn't.
None of it. Right? No, it just doesn't. And you wouldn't have that plot there if it wasn't a real ghost. And there's some weird lines. Bill Patterson, there's a bit where Bill Patterson says to her, "You look terrible," and I thought, this is a woman that you're talking to. Even if it's your mate, you never say that. That's the golden rule. You don't say that. You look terrible.
Yeah, you've done something with your hair.
Although there's a weird sort of subtext to this film in that everybody is sort of attracted to Juliette Stevenson. There's a bit. Have I mentioned this already? The bit near the beginning where all the men are gathered in her flat. There's about 5 blokes, and they're all waxing lyrical.
One after the other says that she's a beautiful woman. She's kind of winning, and Juliette Stevenson's sort of charming and winning and kind of cute in a sort of funny face sort of way. She's not an unattractive woman, but she's not Grace Kelly.
No, she's not.
So
it's suggested that Bill Patterson fancies her.
Yeah.
Obviously, Titus does.
Wants to. Has bought tickets on the off chance to Paris.
George has this sort of fatherly affection for her, but it suggested that every bloke in the film has the hots for her. Really,
the conversation between the 4 men, where they're washing the pots and watching her
gazing at
made me wonder if Anthony Minghella was actually a man. Because I don't think any man has ever had a conversation like that.
She's beautiful.
It was just
look at
weird.
All right, love.
It's
just odd, really, isn't it? Because just strange, a strange subtext to have.
Well, but both. I mean, I talked about Julia Stevenson being, sort of not unblessed in the nose department, and there's equal. That goes equal for Alan Rickman. And there's a bit where she says, "Can I kiss you?" And I thought, well, it's going to be interesting to see, how they go about this, because I guess one of them is definitely going to have to tilt their heads 45 degrees,
But he actually really does.
No. So
there's a bit where I thought the fact that he's always trying to get her to turn up the heat was a bit rich.
Oh yeah.
I thought, wait a minute.
Go more the merrier, please. Can I have an extra blanket? Oh, and pass me the wine and the chocolates. Why, that's it.
Exactly.
So I'm going to get sacked. So the hair, we talked about the hair. Michael Maloney's hair is terrible.
And his too-tall scarf, which respects the film.
So I was just with the stuff that we're going to talk to when we get to worst bit and best bit, but I've mentioned that. There's a very strange moment, and it's meant to be this very sort of, it's very clunky, I think. The poem, yeah, because Alan Rickman's character has apparently memorized a Spanish poem.
He doesn't speak
Spanish.
Spanish.
Not speaking Spanish and not knowing what it means. And therefore having to ask Juliet Stevenson to translate back to him this poem that he's learnt by heart, that he doesn't understand.
That could mean anything, presumably.
Now, I don't know about you, but there aren't that many poems that I've committed to memory, and I certainly haven't bothered committing one to memory that was in a foreign language that I had no idea what it says. No. It seems to me the only reason for this is for Minghella to shoehorn in a favourite Spanish poem, and he's got to find a way of it being translated without using subtitles. Mm. And that's it. And it's so clunky. Didn't you think?
And it doesn't particularly seem to fit the mood, does it? It's not a...
I mean, we will come to Minghella later, but I'm just trying to look to see any other notes I've got. Oh yeah, that'll. Oh yeah. Oh, the toothbrush buying scene.
I was a bit baffled by that.
Yeah. Wait, stop. Here, she says.
Why is she doing
dramatically?
That? I thought she's going to buy contraceptives or something like that.
Yeah, I know, but you don't announce it that dramatically, do you?
Not unless you're barking mad. No,
I know. That was tremendously clunky. So those are all our general thoughts, but we've got to come into best bit, worst bit, and I think we're probably. I'm going to make a bet here. I think we're going to have best bits. No, best bit and worst bits.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be quite a lot of worst bits in this movie.
Okay, well, let's go for best bit. I'll go first. I quite like the bits with his ghost mates. I think they're meant to despise them, but I thought I'd quite like to spend a bit of time with them watching old movies.
Well, that was always one of the things that I thought was very 90s about the movie, and it was we talked about this earlier. This film is the first one I've watched from this exercise that actually made me nostalgic.
Yes,
I didn't enjoy the film at all, but it made me feel very nostalgic. One of the things was the group of mates watching the videos
and the kind of films
they were watching. Now this has disappeared, because now we were mentioning they'd be watching manga, maybe old Doctor Who episodes. There'd be something cultish, But then amongst a sort of post grad, or graduate class, sort of arty type. You wanted to, you wanted to actually watch classic movies. There's bits where they watch Brief Encounter, and they sort of watching your foreign films, a bit of Bergman, that kind of thing,
you watch like Citizen Kane or something.
And
you get it on video.
And they watch them on video, and that's what they enjoy doing. And I'd forgotten. You can remember Lawrence's video store. There was a card shop in Brighton. It's called Lawrence's. At the back, there was a fantastic video rental place. I just got all the art house movies and all the classic old movies and black and white films. It was great. We just went and got classic films. That sort of disappeared from our culture. It doesn't seem to be. I mean, it's even disappeared at film school. The kind of films that people. I remember a friend of mine who's a screenwriter. He turned up at a thing with select a favourite scene from. They were asked to bring in a favourite scene from a movie, and he turned up with a scene from Amarcord.
With the granddad.
Yeah, the granddad. And Amarcord's a great movie. But it's very funny. I mean, it's not like the most obscure art house movie. And, it's very funny, very touching sort of childhood, memoir. And they'd never heard of it. They'd never heard of the director. They'd never heard of Fellini. They'd never films, I think. Yeah. And it was, and he was, and they dismissed it out of hand, and he was terribly embarrassed by the whole sorry charade, and that's. So that made me feel very nostalgic for that,
well, maybe that's why it's my favourite bit. Because,
And also heard her flat, was pre-IKEA.
Yes.
And it was very much looked like the kind of flat that we knew sort of girls at university had. It was homely, and full of nice things, nice old things. Yeah. And it was a bit busy, as well, and that. And also seeing London, seeing the old London, and the South Bank, sort of, with the buskers on there. It was just nothing like as many people there as now.
And also the skyline without quite so many enormous dildos sticking up. Nice, wasn't it?
No, it was. Yeah, it was really nice, and obviously the Route Master buses, and so it was. It genuinely touched me because I suppose of all the things we've seen, it's the one that was kind of closely. It kind of has the most accurate reflection of the kind of life we knew, really, at that time.
No, I suppose you're right. Right, worst bits. Michael Maloney doing his magic trick in the cafe. There's nothing on my left sleeve. Nothing at my right sleeve.
You take this novel, a Russian novel. It must always be a Russian novel. Awful.
The hopping bit.
Yeah. I said to you before, because it's a long time since I've seen this, guys. I really like Michael Maloney. I think he was a superb.
On Love on a Bench Line.
Yeah, but One of the Bench Line was one of the best things that the BBC did in the whole of the 90s. It was absolutely fantastic. David Nobbs' adaptation, and Michael Maloney's fantastic in it, and he was superb as Faulkner in the really great late 80s BBC TV adaptation of Sheridan's Arrivals with the one with Donald Sinden and Sheila Hancock. It was just brilliant. And he was hilarious as Faulkner. He was just absolutely consumed with it is Faulkner, isn't it? Yeah. There's jealousy. And he's an actor who will push the boundaries he will push too hard a lot of the time. Sometimes risks being over the top a lot. Yeah. But when it works, it's great. And I like an actor who will take that risk. But I think in this, what I said was that I didn't really blame him for this. I just blame the character. But actually, I think it's a bit both. I think he also looks scary. His sales pitch to her is terrible. He pitches it. No woman would respond to the woman that he pitches.
It would be very easy to recut this film as a horror film where he's a frightening stalker.
Yeah, I mean, the date that she has with him, where he to the hopscotch, it's kind of scary. He's like he's going to go postal any second, and that is not just the writing; that is his fault. I mean, it's obviously direction as well, but Maloney does go far too hard.
And he mentions that he tried to commit suicide in his hopping thing as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. I don't know why. Might have been sad about
But
something.
the hopping feature, she should just have said, "I never want to see you again in my life."
And she does, and he does that thing as well to tell her that he's going to be really in trouble if she's not serious with him. And he just thought, oh, that works. That always works at a date. You do that.
That makes women go wild for you. That does, mate. I tell you. They don't block you on social media after that, mate.
Again, it's sort of like you sort of think, what life experiences Anthony Minghella actually had, because this is very weird.
I would have thought it was kind of obvious that probably what Juliet Stevenson's character needs to heal is a quite ordinary, stable, normal, maybe even quite boring bloke. Yeah.
Yes.
Wouldn't that make more sense than this hopping madman?
Well, I think to be fair, I think what was obviously driving Minghella was that we'd come out of, it's 1990, we'd come out of the late 80s and the excesses, and and so of lawyers and city financiers and stuff like that, and people in candy striped shirts and ties and double-breasted suits, and he's obviously chosen this tootle scarf wearing, paisley shirt, long haired, works with people with learning difficulties, nice, soft, kind of new man, as a kind of deliberate counter to that Nicholas Lyndhurst's attempt at a yuppie.
He's quite similar to Jamie in a way, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which I thought was odd.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't she get off with the builder? I mean,
he's a less talented version of Jamie.
Yeah, he can't even play the cello.
Can't even play the cello. Yeah, and one can't help but feel less entertaining. I mean, he's kind of meant to be entertaining, isn't he? The hopscotch things, and he's got the magic as a.
The impression he gave me was that he's got a few sort of quite threadbare tricks, but then when those run out, he's a bit boring, really.
Yeah. No. So, but not in the nice, stable way that you think that she probably would benefit from.
No, but I suspect their relationship's doomed.
It is a very. There's another bit that I thought was. I'm just going to find it because I've made a note of it somewhere. And
I did roll my eyes at the bit where the Chilean woman said, "In my country, I am a filmmaker." And I thought, is everybody in this? Is everybody either a filmmaker or a doctor or a brain surgeon?
Well, Maloney's shirt. Maloney, yes, I've mentioned Maloney's shirt. Well, that was one of the things that made me feel nostalgic, actually.
Paisley shirts.
Yeah, the paisley shirt.
Paisley shirt.
Did I? Yeah, I definitely had a tootle scarf.
No, well, of course you had.
Of course,
50.
The toothbrush buying scene. That was to suggest that she's decided, yes, no, I'm definitely going to go with a new lover. And she yells at him, barks at him, in a really sort of way that could have caused them both to careen to their deaths, to pull over, urgently, she says. And they come, and he's going, oh, God, no, she's run off. But she goes into the chemist, and she doesn't come back with a big sack of Johnnies, which is what she comes out with a toothbrush. And he's thinking, what are you going to do with that? So that's awful. I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else?
I don't think. Right, let's go on to.
Oh! The sun. I couldn't even watch it again. The sun ain't going to shine anymore.
Oh,
that's
God.
Surely the worst bit.
Well, surely all 90s films for some reason have to have a bit where the lead characters sing a song.
Yeah, well, we mentioned this in Peter's Friends.
Dance.
Yeah, they have the song. That's just it. And her dancing around joyfully. While he sings and plays his cello, that's disgusting.
Okay, worst performance in this. All the performances are pretty good, really.
I think that Michael Maloney's because he just comes over as a psychopath.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, Michael, but I'm a big fan. But
best performance.
Well, Juliet Stevenson.
No, she's very good.
She's very good. I mean, she's very. I mean, I really like her. Yeah, she's very good actress. She was always an excellent actress, but this is mawkish nonsense. Go on.
Saving grace of this. Is there a saving grace in this film? Well, it gave us a big old shot of nostalgia, didn't it?
It did actually. Yeah.
Made us remember 1990.
And it just made us remember how we used to rail against the Screen 2 films that were always rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, if you're our age and you really want a good old intravenous shot of nostalgia for the early 90s, watch this film with the sound turned off.
Her flat's the best bit. You know, it's really, I love that flat. It's lovely. You know, and Brighton was absolutely. In fact, strangely enough, you know, your missus, when she went to see this film, she was in a flat that looked almost identical.
No,
as
it's
I
true.
remember. You know,
with the lovely little things all over it. Okay, films that are better on similar subject. Well, you've got Ghost, of course.
Yes, which is this is obviously the very very middle class cash in on. You know, although I'm just trying to work out, they must presumably have developed roughly, you know, contemporaneously without knowing.
I don't know. I mean, this is kind of the John Lewis version of Ghost, isn't it? Really.
But
Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Beetlejuice. That's another film on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of films like As Ghost Goes West. That's a better.
Beetlejuice was probably the progenitor, isn't it? I didn't like Beetlejuice particularly.
It's got better world building.
Yeah, it does, but it just is not as funny as it thinks it is. It really isn't. You know,
Winona Ryder's good, isn't it?
There's the film that I thought it was like is, which also has Bill Paterson in. Bill Paterson stars in, is Comfort and Joy.
Oh yes,
the Bill Forsyth film, which was a flop.
Yeah,
it was Bill Forsyth's follow up to Gregory's Girl, and I it doesn't fully work. Comfort and Joy, to be fair, I think it doesn't quite fully work, but I think it's still so good. It's a lovely romantic. It's a very sweet romantic comedy, and it is about somebody who just can't get over a loved one, you know, their bereavement, you know. And
although she doesn't die in the film, she just leaves
him. Yeah, but he just can't get over it.
Yeah,
you know, and it's you know, his life is absolutely stuck. I'd forgotten about it. I couldn't remember whether she died or not. I thought she had.
No, she just leaves him for another bloke.
That's it. But he's absolutely stuck. And you see scenes of him seeing various psychiatrists trying to help him.
Arnold Brown is
Arnold Brown there, and
that really happened to me.
Yeah, I know, great scene. And I think that's sort of, but he eventually sort of manages to move on through the ice cream wars, you know. But I think that's probably the closest I can think of. I mean, obviously, Ghost is kind of slog. Yeah, it's Hollywood slog, but it does actually work.
Yeah,
you know, it's actually it's quite funny. Whoopi Goldberg is good in it. You know,
there's some genuinely scary bits in it.
You know, and it's not frightfully middle class.
No.
You know, there's a bit actually where Anthony Minghella really shows his. He mentions, this is so weird. She said they talk berating her for taping over Manhattan, and she mentions, you know, Hannah and her sisters, and one of the film buff ghosts says Woody Allen, like she wouldn't know.
Well, they're already talking about
Manhattan. They're already talking about Manhattan, and that's why she mentions Hannah and her sisters, and Woody Allen's in Hannah and her sisters, so she mentions it like she knows the film. So he doesn't. It's just there again. It's kind of example of the clunky dialogue, that kind of expositionary dialogue that Anthony Minghella has. That's really clunky. That's just so we know what Hannah and her sisters is Woody Allen.
Well, so it's a bit weird taping over Manhattan with Hannah and her sisters, isn't it? That doesn't make any sense at all.
But the reason why I mentioned it is because, you know, we used to talk about this. Woody Allen does have this tendency to sort of like make this kind of lifestyle film. Yeah. You know, where you've got the apartment that you want. And he mentions the novels that he likes and the pieces of music that he wants playing, and he wants Duke Ellington playing. If not that, he'll name check Bach. So and Hannah and Sisters has got the oboe concerto, Bach slow movement played throughout it, and then you've got the violin. I think it's the A minor concerto, the Bach, slow movement playing in this one. There's lots of bark in both. This kind of sense of these sort of cultural touchstones that obviously now. But I thought, but Woody Allen kind of got away with that because I mean it's that thing. He was a comic, and he wanted, and so he's got a personality that you know, and he's wanting to sort of like anything. He probably thought, I've got a right to do this, and he has that thing of like, I want to be taken seriously as well, which kind of lots of. It's like those, but the memoirs of wrestlers where they say, I also have a life of the mind. I do enjoy, the Bronte books and blah blah, and so. But Anthony Minghella, what's his reason for doing it? He's not known. He wasn't known as a personality. He'd written Made in Bangkok, which was a big hit on the wrestling stage. Why is he? He's falling for this sort of Woody Allen. Hello. Is that recorded?
No, it's still recording. I think. The film. This film could have been a Woody Allen film, couldn't it? Because all his sort of 90s films are about ghosts and spirits. And, things like this, aren't they? It could have been this film could have been a not very good. Allen film.
So what makes this a Rotten Nights movie?
There's a bit where they sing a song for no real reason. Which also happens in, which we also meant to be recording today, but we're going to do next week instead. Also happens in Life Less Ordinary. It's in that where they sing a song. Yeah. And where did this come from? We need to find, I think, the first film in which this happened.
I think we talked about this in another one. I think it is Hannah and Her Sisters. I think it's the moment where Maureen O'Sullivan they sing.
Well, they sing.
Breast for You or something like that. I think that kind of just made me go, oh, it's nice to have that. In the middle of a film.
These Foolish Things, I think.
Yes, These Foolish. That's it. And I think it's that. I think it's the thing things that really date it is the size of her flat, that it's in Highgate, and what makes it really in the 90s is this bunch of friends watching videos, and watching classic films. It's just that's gone.
A lot of sitting on the floor despite there being lots of chairs and sofas.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Or sitting right beside the sofa on the floor. That seems to be a huge 90s thing.
Also, that she doesn't have bare floorboards because no one's got bare floorboards yet. They've all still got carpets. Whereas, shortly after this, everybody tore up all their carpets.
Yeah, they did. There's no IKEA.
No.
Yeah.
Long brown Max as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's almost kind of 80s. They're all sort of they all look like Ian Curtis, basically. Yeah. But that was a sort of a uniform. Grandad shirt, long old man's overcoat you got at Oxfam. That's everybody wore that, and in fact we still do. So marks out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 5, I think, because it's awful, and there are bits of it that really made me cringe, and there's a sort of political subtext that I think is very, very silly and childish, really.
Really on the nose, isn't it?
Much too on the nose. But it's full of really great actors doing a good job, and Bill. You can't go wrong with Bill Patterson, can you? He's good in it. Julian Stevenson's good in it. Alan Rickman's good in it. Michael Maloney's good in it. They're all playing to an extent awful characters and doing things that appall me. But I can't, in all good conscience, give it less than 5. I think.
No, I'm probably the same. I was surprised. I enjoyed it even less this time. But I mean, it's very long. It's at least 20 minutes too long.
No, it is too long.
It really is. It should come in at an hour and a half, and it's an hour and 50.
So what's your score?
I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say 5.
All right, Murray? So 5 it is.
One word.
One word, nauseating.
Snotty.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Brilliant. All right.
Drab.
Nauseating, snotty and drab.
Right. Well, that was truly, madly, deeply, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.